Some words are too heavy to speak, too precious to risk, and too late to Matharor, so I thought. At 53, I'm finally writing the letter I should have sent 15 years ago. To the woman I loved and lost through my own cowardice. Margaret is 62 now, a grandmother, a pillar of our small town. But when our eyes met across the farmer's market last Tuesday, time collapsed. The same electricity, the same longing, the same fear. This letter might be 15 years overdue, but perhaps some loves are worth the wait. Perhaps second chances aren't just fairy tales. Perhaps it's never too late to be brave. My dearest Margaret, I've started this letter 1,000 times in my mind. Yet my hands have never been brave enough to put pen to paper until now. It's been 15 years since I walked away from us. 15 years since I chose the safety of silence over the risk of truth. I was 38 then, terrified of what loving you openly might cost me in our small town. You were 47, recently divorced, finding your footing as a single mother. I told myself I was protecting you, protecting your children, protecting my career. But the truth is, I was only protecting my own fear. I remember the last time we were alone together, that rainy afternoon in your kitchen. When little Sarah had gone to her friend's house, you made chamomile tea, the way you always did when you sensed my anxiety. Your hands were steady as you poured, but I caught the slight tremor when our fingers brushed. Emma, you said, my name soft on your lips like a prayer. We need to talk about this. The electricity between us, the way we gravitated toward each other at every town meeting, every school function, every casual encounter at the grocery store. But I panicked, I made excuses, gathered my things, and practically ran from your house. The next week, I heard through the gossip mill that Dr. Harrison from the city had asked you out. By the end of the month, you were seeing him regularly. I convinced myself it was for the best. Even as my heart shattered with each piece of news about your blossoming relationship, I threw myself into my work at the library, organizing events, creating programs, anything to keep my mind busy. But every romance novel that crossed my desk, every love poem, every happy ending reminded me of the story we never got to write. I dated men occasionally, going through the motions of heteronormative expectations, but my heart remained stubbornly yours. Years passed. You married Dr. Harrison. I watched from the back of the church, tears streaming down my face, telling anyone who asked that I had allergies. Now, at 53, I've learned that life's greatest regrets aren't the chances we took and failed at, but the chances we never took at all. I've watched you from afar all these years at Sarah's graduation, at community events, at the coffee shop where you meet your book club every Thursday. You're more beautiful now than ever, silver threading through your auburn hair, laugh lines mapping the joy you've found in motherhood and community service. And I've wondered, every single day, what might have been. When I saw you at the farmer's market last Tuesday, time stopped. You were examining Mrs. Peterson's tomatoes, your reading glasses perched on your nose, that same little furrow between your brows when you concentrate. Then you looked up, and our eyes met across the crowded stalls. The world tilted. For a moment, I saw recognition flicker across your face, not just of my presence, but of us, of what we'd never allowed ourselves to become. I almost walked away again. My feet actually took 2 steps backward before I forced myself to stop. Not again, I thought. I won't run again. So I walked over, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. Margaret, I said, and you smiled, that same warm, encompassing smile that used to make my knees weak. Emma, how lovely to see you. Your voice was exactly as I remembered, honey warm, with that slight rasp that appeared when you were moved or nervous. We talked about ordinary things, the unusually warm October weather, the new bookstore downtown, your daughter Sarah's wedding next month. But underneath the polite conversation, there was an undercurrent, a pull as strong as ever. When you mentioned that Robert had passed away 2 years ago, your voice caught slightly. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, he'd been a good man, a good husband to you, a good father to Sarah. Thank you, you replied. And then, so quietly I almost missed it. Some days are harder than others. Something in your tone, a loneliness that mirrored my own, made me bold. Would you like to have coffee sometime? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. You studied my face for a long moment, and I saw the years collapse between us. You were 47 again, standing in your kitchen, asking me to stay and talk. This time, I wasn't running. I'd like that, you said finally. I'd like that very much. We agreed to meet at Mabel's Cough on Saturday morning. As I walked away, my hands were shaking. But for the first time in years, it wasn't from fear, it was from possibility. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my small apartment, 20 years of suppressed feelings threatening to overwhelm me. I thought about all the letters I'd written in my mind but never sent, all the declarations of love that had died on my lips, all the moments when I'd chosen safety over authenticity. Margaret, I need you to know, Evan, during those years when you were married, when I convinced myself I'd moved on, you were always there. In every sunset that painted the sky the same shade as your hair, in every piece of classical music that reminded me of your love for Chopin, in every act of kindness that reflected your generous spirit. I loved you then, I love you now, and I will love you until my last breath. The question is there still room in your heart for a love that was interrupted but never ended? Saturday morning came wrapped in golden October light, the kind of day that makes promises. I arrived at Mabel's early, choosing a corner table where we could talk privately. When you walked in, wearing that blue sweater that brings out your eyes, I felt 18 again, nervous, hopeful, terrifyingly alive. You'd styled your silver hair in a soft bob, and you moved with the same graceful confidence that had captured my heart decades ago. You look beautiful, I said as you sat down, and immediately blushed at my boldness. But you smiled, a real smile that reached your eyes. Thank you, Emma. You look wonderful too. We ordered coffee black for me, with cream for you. Some things never change and settled into the delicate dance of rekindling connection. You told me about Robert's final months, how cancer had taken him slowly but not cruelly, how you'd held his hand as he passed. He knew, you said quietly, stirring cream into your coffee, about my feelings for you. I mean, he was kinder about it than I deserved. My breath caught. Margaret, but you continued. He said once that love isn't a finite resource, that the heart can hold many kinds of love, and none of them diminish the others. The conversation flowed like wine, intoxicating and warm. We talked about books, about the changes in our little town, about Sarah's upcoming wedding and her new job in Portland. But underneath it all was the steady current of Usta connection that had never really severed, just gone underground, waiting. Do you ever think about the path not taken? You asked, your fingers tracing patterns on the table. I reached across and covered your hand with mine, marveling at how perfectly we still fit together. Every day, I admitted, every single day, your eyes filled with tears, but you didn't pull away. I wrote you letters, you whispered, after Robert passed. Letters I never sent because I thought too much time had gone by, too much life had happened between us. I wrote them too, I confessed, hundreds of them, in my mind. All the things I should have said that day in your kitchen, all the words I was too afraid to speak. We sat there, hands intertwined, tears flowing freely now, grieving for the years we'd lost and celebrating the miracle of this moment. When you suggested we take a walk, I readily agreed. We strolled through downtown, past the library where I still worked, past the school where you'd volunteered for so many years, past the church where you'd married Robert. The autumn air was crisp with promise, and our conversation grew easier with each step. By the time we reached the park where the maples were showing off their fire-colored leaves, we were laughing together, the years melting away like morning frost. Emma, you said, stopping beside the old oak tree where the high school sweethearts carved their initials. I need to know if we do this, if we try again. Are you ready to be brave this time? Because I can't survive another disappearing act. I'm too old for games, too tired of half-truths and almosts. Standing beneath that ancient oak, looking into your eyes that held both love and wariness, I felt the weight of our history and the lightness of possibility. Margaret, I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected, I've spent 15 years being a coward, and I won't spend whatever years I have left making the same mistake. Yes, I'm ready to be brave. I'm ready to love you openly, honestly, completely. Something shifted in your expression, hope, blooming like spring after a long winter. I need to tell you something, you said, about the last 2 years since Robert died. I've been seeing a therapist, working through grief, but also other things. She helped me understand that the love I felt for you wasn't something to be ashamed of or hide from. It was real, it was beautiful, and it was mine to claim. You took my other hand, and we stood there like teenagers, connected by touch and honesty. I want to try, Emma. God help me. I want to try again, but slowly. Sarah's getting married in 3 weeks, and I need to focus on that. After the wedding, after the dust settles, maybe we could ... double quotes. You trailed off, but your meaning was clear. I'll wait, I said immediately. I've waited 15 years. I can wait a few more weeks. Besides, I added with a smile, I have a letter to finish writing. Your laugh was like music, bright and clear in the autumn air. Just one, you teased. I have decades of letters to catch up on. The weeks that followed were a delicate courtship, tentative but real. We had coffee dates, long phone conversations that stretched past midnight, texts that made us both blush like schoolgirls. You invited me to Sarah's wedding, and I watched with tears in my eyes as you walked your daughter down the aisle. Radiant in your mother of bride dress, when Sarah hugged you after the ceremony, she whispered something that made you look directly at me across the crowded reception. Later, you told me she'd said, "Mom, I'm so glad you're finally choosing happiness." The evening after Sarah left for her honeymoon, you called me. "Emma," you said, and I could hear the nervousness and excitement in your voice. "Would you like to come over for dinner? I'm making pot roast. I remember it was your favorite." My heart nearly stopped. "I'll bring the wine," I managed to say. That dinner was our real beginning. We talked until dawn, sharing everything we'd held back, all the feelings we'd suppressed, all the dreams we'd deferred. When you fell asleep on the couch beside me, your head on my shoulder, I finally understood what home felt like. In the morning, you made coffee and smiled at me over the rim of your cup. "Emma," you said, "I love you. I've loved you for 20 years, and I'm tired of pretending I don't." "I love you too," I replied, the words finally free after all these years. "More than you'll ever know." Now, 6 months later, as I finish this letter that will never need to be sent because I've said these words to you in person every day since, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. We may have started our love story later in life than we planned, but perhaps we needed these years to become the women worthy of the love we share, now patient, wise, unafraid. Some stories begin with once upon a time, but ours begins with better late than never. At 53 and 62, we're proof that love doesn't have an expiration date, that second chances are real, and that courage can bloom at any age. If you're holding back words of love, fearing it's too late, too complicated, too risky, don't wait 15 years like I did. Life is shorter than we think, but longer than we fear. And love real, honest, brave. Love is always worth the risk. Ready to write your own love story? Download our complete collection of mature romance stories and discover that it's never too late for happily ever after. Click here to begin your journey.